Expecting Justice, we are a collective impact effort based in San Francisco that is focused on improving birth outcomes for Black and Pacific Islander communities in San Francisco. We work with the UCSF Preterm Birth Initiative, as well as the San Francisco Department of Public Health, to ensure that we are putting out interventions and solutions that are focused on getting rid of preterm birth, right? But really centered around racial equity and anti-racism practices while doing that.
The government, be it city government, state, or federal, has done such a great job of pathologizing Black women in particular, and, you know, creating all of these different stereotypes around welfare queens and these different names that we don't want to be associated with. You know, we're proud. We can take care of our own family, but what if you live in a system where you're not set up for that success? And so you're not making as much money as the next person. So yes, you work hard. Yes, you go to work 40, 60 hours a week, but you're still only bringing home, you know, $15 an hour. So what is the life that you can really provide when you're not in a system, and in San Francisco's case, in a city that supports low-income people, that is safe for folks who live in poverty?
I am a proud daughter, a proud mother, a proud wife. I am a believer. I am thoughtful. I am kind. I am bold. I am courageous. I am Lentice Jones, born and raised in Bayview, Hunters Point, San Francisco, California.
Growing up in Bayview, Hunters Point was definitely adventurous. I would say with all communities, right? You have your ups and you have your downs.
Bayview is a really important part of San Francisco because it is one of our historically Black neighborhoods. And for a long time, it was a majority Black neighborhood, and there are very few of those in San Francisco.
I am grateful to be from San Francisco, and I am happy that this is my hometown. And also, I will be honest, it wasn't until I actually went away to school where I realized that San Francisco was a tale of two cities. Yes, it is true that the Bay is beautiful. Yes, it is true that San Francisco is amazing. And yes, it is very, very true that people are suffering here.
My name is Sophia Tupuola, and I am PI. PI stands for Pacific Islander. So growing up here, you don't initially recognize how spatially sequestered you are from like society and the capacity to really thrive. You're like cut off from a lot of resources. There were 5 of us that stayed in one room: my mom, my dad, my brother, my sister, and me. So it was like my dad and my little sister were on the bottom bunk. I was on the top bunk. My mom pulled out a bed, and it was her and my brother, you know, sleeping on that bed, and we had like a wall full of containers that had our clothes in it. And so each family had a room like that in this house. And then there was family sleeping in the living room, on the couches, on the floor, in the dining room. And so that was our norm. Because everyone, I think, was kind of afraid or just didn't know how to navigate getting services from the city. And so whoever did have those services, we kind of piled up on each other and hoped we figured out a way to get through.
Many times we think because we are in San Francisco, we are so progressive that racism doesn't happen here, when in fact we produce some very racist outcomes in the city, some of the most racist outcomes in the country. For instance, San Francisco has the 2nd highest rate of Black unemployment in the country. And the only major urban area that has a higher rate of Black unemployment is Detroit. And I think the Bayview Hunters Point, in a lot of ways, ends up being a physical representation of how this city treats its Black and Pacific Islander residents. Hidden, neglected, and disinvested, and unprotected.
Structural racism is really the root cause of preterm birth. And given that Black and Pacific Islander women, at least in San Francisco for sure, have the highest rates of preterm birth, these are specifically the populations that we want to center and work with to get rid of this disparity.
Unfortunately, there are consequences to this lack of support of Black and Pacific Islander communities. And one of the most significant consequences shows up in our ability to have healthy and safe pregnancies.
I'm 28 now, bro. I'm in my Saturn return. So I'm 28 years old. I'm a dancer, doula, and massage therapist, and I'm a Richmond native. So I'm from Richmond, and I'm just hella into birth justice work, just due to like my mom's birth experience and like what my birth experience was with my mom. So I'm hella into like just getting back to community and getting back to our roots and getting back to all things Black. It's been scary. I was on edge that first trimester. I was just like, okay, I really want my baby, you know, and I don't want anything to happen to my baby, but it's a lot of outside stressors, like not having money and shit like that. It makes you, you know, stress out. And then I just was thinking about my mom's preeclampsia, and I was like, I just don't want that to happen with me. I don't want to, and I also don't want a preterm birth, like, because that was with me and that's with my sisters and my whole family. We're trying to like break generational, you know, like cycles. Like we want to be able to have a full-term birth, in-home birth without medical intervention.
In using social services and welfare services, there's this stereotype of users of that service. And moms have been telling us the disrespect that they've been facing or faced with, right? The stigma that comes with actually going to the programs themselves. And it's not just perceived or what they're experiencing themselves, they also inhabit some of these stigmas themselves about people who actually use social services.
When these corporations get corporate bailouts, they don't feel any shame. They don't feel any shame about the tax breaks that they get. So don't feel shame. This is due to you for the blood, sweat, and tears that your ancestors laid in this soil.
Expecting Justice is an organization based here in San Francisco that is really trying to fight for justice in birthing and pregnancy for Black and Pacific Islander women in San Francisco and other birthing people.
One of the focus areas of Expecting Justice is economic access. And through economic access, we've created a program that's called the Abundant Birth Project, or ABP for short. And ABP is a pregnancy income supplement pilot that is geared towards improving birth outcomes by using an unconditional cash supplement model. And this is gonna be intentionally, specifically targeted for Black and Pacific Islander pregnant people. In the US, this would be the first ever of its kind as an unconditional cash supplement during pregnancy. And we already know that there's a ton of research and evidence out there that proves that cash supplements can actually reduce rates of preterm birth. So we're excited to do something like this as the first of its kind in the US in San Francisco for Black and PI mamas.
Aloha! Aloha! Where are we on our way to? Having my first son right when I turned 23, I did everything that people told me to do. I went to college, I had my bachelor's degree, I had amassed whatever success that was, and then I still found myself buried under a mountain of student loan debt. I still couldn't afford to live in San Francisco by myself, and I most certainly could not take care of my son the way in which he deserved and the way that I wanted to. And so having had to access those resources before and have completed what I believe was the complete formula for success, because people say just make it out, just go to school. Once you get out of your neighborhood, as if everything is going to be great after that. That was not the truth for me.
I tried to get like food stamps, and they was like, the people at the office, they supposed to be like looking out for you and shit, but you go there and they just make you feel like shit for being in there. And it's like, bruh, like, I need this. You say you got it, you say it's for people in need, but then when I get here, you like badgering me and telling me I don't need it.
So we are in San Francisco at the CalWorks building where moms come and, you know, sign up for benefits like food stamps and cash aid. So I am a community doula with the organization Sister Web. Sister Web is a San Francisco doula network, and we provide free doula services to African American, Pacific Islander, and Latinx families.
I came here when I was 19, when I found out I was pregnant. And I knew I needed assistance because I was just a college student, and you know, I really wasn't prepared, you know, to support my child. But I knew that there was options in the city to support me, so this was the first place I came to. I came and signed up for food stamps and cash aid here.
One of my first experiences here in this building, I would say it wasn't really that good. The eligibility worker who pretty much looks over your application, you know, said a lot of rude comments to me. I remember her saying oh, why are you so young and pregnant? And that was my first experience, you know, coming to this building. And that really made me feel bad because At the time, I felt like I was questioning everything, but you know, I was still gonna go through with my pregnancy regardless.
I want to tell an important story about some incredible activists, Black women activists in the 70s in Las Vegas. Nevada in the 70s was doing a lot of work. Their government was very conservative at the time. They were doing a lot of work to cut back welfare benefits and other benefits like food stamps. And a group of mothers, low-income mothers, many of whom were serving as the maids in the hotels and casinos in Las Vegas, got very organized and basically demanded their rights. And they were able to use incredible activism by shutting down casinos and blocking some of the main roads in Las Vegas. They were able to get the political power they needed in order to restore their benefits and in some cases grow it. And then they didn't stop there. After they had secured some of these welfare benefits, they took over an old abandoned hotel and they turned it into a community center. And Ruby Duncan and these other Black mamas used that center to establish a clinic, to establish job training and education programs. And I love this, they established a WIC program, and they fought so that they could themselves administer this WIC program because they figured, who knows the community that uses WIC better than we do?
The system destroyed our movements. The Black Panther Party being a public health organization and feeding people. These are things that we did. And when originally there wasn't a free breakfast program in schools, Black Panther Party did that. Before there was WIC, Women, Infants, and Children, Black Panther Party was feeding women, infants, and children. I grew up in this community. We were on welfare. We had Section 8. And as a kid, you couldn't get me to say that. You couldn't get me to utter those words. But because of the programs that we had in our community to help and support us, my parents were able to sustain us. It's not really about where you are right now, it's where you want to go. And if that means that you need this extra money, or you need, those food stamps, or you need that Section 8 or public housing voucher, like, use that as your launching pad and don't let that define you.
I want to call Black mamas to love ourselves. I also want to remind all of us Black mamas that you should never feel ashamed in doing what you need to do to take care of your kids. Nobody makes it easy for Black mamas in this city. Quite the opposite. We make it really, really hard to raise healthy, safe, empowered Black children and Pacific Islander children in this city. And it takes so much to overcome the racism around us. We need to invest deeply in love of ourselves and our families in order to see the world that we want to see change.
At the Abundant Birth Project, we really believe that we know what it takes for our communities to be their healthiest and best selves. And the Abundant Birth Project is an opportunity to actually develop and design the first pregnancy income supplement in the US. And this summer, we're so excited to be actually engaging in a really innovative and creative co-collaborative process to actually design and build the Abundant Birth Project and all the ins and outs of what it's gonna be. And the next generation is expecting justice. So I think it's on us to actually create something that works for us. And I'm hoping you all can join us